Hi everyone, it's been a while since I've done a video. I want to get less technical today and talk on the broad question of whether or not you can obtain employment in the cybersecurity industry and not have any experience. And before I begin, last 2 decades, I've been involved in the IT industry and specializing over the last decade in cybersecurity. I've held positions on a broad spectrum, smaller companies, where basically I was wearing many different hats, I should say. And then most recently, a company that many of you have heard of, CompTIA, as the senior security engineer, specializing in application security. And currently, I am employed as a pen test consultant with Patron Cyber. So let's put that aside, and why don't we jump right in? So can you get an employment, a legitimate a job opportunity with no experience in cybersecurity? And I believe the answer is yes. Of course, many companies do want experience, but why don't we say to get the ball rolling and in the right direction, so to speak, I think building a foundation, you can start today. All right, you don't have to wait for a job opportunity, an internship to come along to go ahead and get your feet wet. So number one, I would get some skills. You don't have to do a deep dive in, let's say, Python or understanding PHP. And the reason I mention PHP, because a lot of people do believe that it's outdated, but there is a lot of applications. So about 50 to 60% of the web runs on PHP in general. So just get familiar with some of the different technologies. Azure, of course, you can open up a free Azure account, especially if you're a student. It's very easy to do. So get acquainted. You don't have to dive deep. I'm not saying certifications, but there's a lot of free information out there. And you can do, let's say, 2 hours a week. Let's say you're working a full-time job in another area and you want to get into IT. Well, go ahead and write down on your calendar that you're going to do 3 hours over the weekend. And you can split it up when you have some time. So there's 24 hours in a day. I believe you can make the time to set aside if you are motivated enough to get into the industry. So picking up some skills, get familiar, number two, with terminologies in cybersecurity. So just go on YouTube, watch some videos, read, and just get familiar with terminologies. If someone mentions something and you're not familiar, let's say someone's talking about, IP protocols, look it up. Now we have Chat GPT. Look it up. I mean, it's so easy to obtain information like never before. Another thing I do want to mention is now we have certifications that are low cost. For example, a Google cybersecurity certification, which I think is well worth it, and many others. Now, if you want to talk about names that are respected, now a lot of people mention the CompTIA A+. I want to mention that that is kind of geared more towards a help desk job. So it's a stepping stone where you can go ahead and you can get into cybersecurity with something like that. So it's kind of like step one. But in my opinion, I think you should go straight to, if you have a certification in mind, the CompTIA Security Plus is a well-respected entry-level certification, which is respected. So I would say, I'm not saying specifically skip the A+, but if you're limited on funds and you want to get straight to it, I do think the Security Plus is a home run. Okay, so the recommended, and I'm sure if you've watched other YouTube videos, you probably already know, the introduction type of certification that I think is well worth it. And there's a plethora of information on the web, free study material that you can just go over and, invest in a book if you're the type that learns better from reading than you do from a video. I mean, for like $40, $50, you get a new book. For like $20, you get a used book. Well worth it. Okay, I have so many books around here, and I have to say, I probably read like 25% of the books, and then I jump to the videos for the most part if I'm going to a certification. For example, the CISM, which is something that I have to get for my new employer, more of a managerial position. I probably read again like 25% of the book, and then it's videos, and then it's different study materials. So it depends how you learn and how you want to go about doing this. Do I recommend a certification? Absolutely. And as many of you probably already know, it doesn't take a college degree. Although I want to mention a computer science college degree is very valuable. Even an associate's in computer science is very valuable. So I would not downplay these skills, because it tells your employer, hey, this individual invested in themselves, and here they have a good GPA. So they have already demonstrated the ability to learn, and not only learn, but learn in a technical manner. Because if any of you have taken computer science courses, they are by no means easy for the average person. And you are dealing with a lot of math. Now, whether or not you are going to use math in the cybersecurity realm, for the most part, I think it's going to be rare. Last point, number 4, practical experience. It could be a tidbit on your resume discussing the fact that you set up a home network, a DNS server, something that shows that you are a passionate individual, that you are creating things on your own time and you're not getting paid. It shows that you have an interest in technology and you're not just going into it so you can get a big fat salary. You're doing it because you're passionate. So I strongly suggest going online. There's so many videos. Set up a home lab. You can go ahead and get your virtual machine running, install Kali Linux, and you can test that on your home lab. So, there's many different uses. And then I do think setting up a pretty neat, let's say you have an old outdated computer laying around, a PC, format the hard drive, install Linux on there, set up a DNS server, okay? Have some fun, something different to show, hey, this particular individual is doing something that, again, shows that they have passion and a real true enjoyment for technology. So I don't want to start going off and elaborating too much. I think these are 4 simple ways that you can then complement your resume. Now, how would you apply for employment? Well, don't wait until you have all these 4 aspects completed and then you go ahead and start applying for a job. Absolutely not. You start in the beginning. You want to start to apply for employment in whether it's cybersecurity or it could just be IT in general. There's a lot of different ways to get your feet wet. Go for an internship. Take $15, $20 an hour. All right. And if it's an internship and money is not a factor, and hey, do a free internship. Get the experience is what I'm saying. But start applying right away, and then you can let your employer know you're in the process of studying for the A+ CompTIA certification. Let's say you are, and let's say that's a help desk job. And you let them know that you're going to take the test in 3 weeks. But in the meantime, you want to interview and apply. Sometimes it takes, 60 to 90 days to get employment. After you go through the process, then, a lot of times it's 2-3 interviews. They're going to ask you some questions. And depending upon the state that you're in, you may have to go through a drug test. Background check is typical. So, by the time all of that is done, it's typically 2-3 months anyway. Okay, it could be sooner, could be later. So my point is, every day, do something that furthers your education in cybersecurity and show your employer that you are serious. That's, for the most part, show the effort. That's probably, for the most part, the most important. I have hired individuals that didn't have much experience at all, but let's say they set up a home lab, as I was saying earlier, let's say, a DNS server, created a website with some tidbits and different projects in a portfolio. Let's say if it's some kind of a programming job, like full stack developer. If someone is saying that they are very familiar with, let's say, WordPress, I mean, that's so easy. You don't need coding experience. You say, well, have you ever, did a deep dive into the code and modified it? I remember in the beginning when WordPress came out, the only way to really, change the look and feel was to dig into the code and implement, make changes to the coding structure. So things are different now, but my point is taking things apart, experiencing the technological aspect of particular applications shows that you have this intuitive sense, and curiosity is good for the most part when it comes to things like this. It shows that you're highly interested, as I mentioned before. So, okay, I hope this helped, and feel free to put some comments of different ideas and different thoughts and how long it took you to get your first cybersecurity job. For me, it was a bit different. I was already a web programmer at a company that I was actually partners in, and we were experiencing some pretty aggressive hacking. And as a result, I just became the cybersecurity guy. So I was the one that was managing these servers at the time. So things are different now. Obviously, people are a lot more aware. I believe it's still a very good line of work within the IT industry to get into. And I hope you feel the same way. So I hope this helped, and you take care of